Hey everyone, it's Al with Longoria House Dog Training. I wanted to take the next couple of minutes to actually explain some of the principles that we use to train our dogs. If this is your first time hearing this, I'd encourage you to grab a pen and a notepad and jot some of this stuff down. And then also, if you're an existing client right now, not a bad idea to get this information back in and just really reinforce what we've already gone over. So the first thing that any of my clients learn are the ABCs of training, where A stands for antecedent, B stands for behavior, and C stands for consequence. Now, antecedents are going to be the languages or the forms of communication that we use to get your dog to do the things that we want them to do. The languages that we're going to use are based on the dog's senses, so it could be the language of sound, the language of motion, the language of scent, and the language of touch. Each one of those languages has their strengths and weaknesses. However, we're going to use those languages to be able to make it very clear to your dog what it is that we want them to do, which are their behaviors. So the behaviors that we want your dog to have, which is the letter B in ABCs, are good eye contact and attention, sitting, downing, going to their bed, coming when called, sitting by our side, and walking on a slack leash. I really believe that these behaviors are very important for your dog to learn. And if your dog actually learns them, they're going to use them so many times throughout their life that it's actually going to help produce that harmony that you're looking for in your home. So your antecedents, which are your languages, end up creating your behaviors, which are the things that you want your dog to do. And those behaviors are going to be influenced by C, the consequences. The consequences that we're going to use are going to be positive reinforcers and negative reinforcers. Now, I'm not going to go over the difference between positive and negative reinforcers in detail, but just understand that both of these are going to make your dog more likely to do what you ask. And positive reinforcers specifically are used by adding something into the system to get the dog to do it more. So, for example, we give our dog our presence. So quality time together with your dog is a form of positive reinforcement. We also interactively play with our dogs if they're playing with a tug toy, chasing a ball, maybe even wrestling with you. Also, we give our dogs food, so the act of consuming food is rewarding to your dog. Also, physically touching and petting your dog is important, and then praising your dog. So these five, types of positive reinforcers are going to have a direct influence on your dog's behaviors, how much they pay attention, if they're going to sit, if they're going to down, if they're going to come when called. I think you get the idea. So we have this methodology of antecedents create behaviors, and behaviors are influenced by their consequences. As you begin to follow this process of antecedents to behaviors and consequences, you're going to see that your dog is going to get better and better at doing the things that you're asking them to do. Okay? So one of the tools that we use as dog trainers and that we use for a lot of our pets is going to be the leash. And the leash is actually, has an antecedent and it has a consequence. The leash, if it pressures on, is an antecedent. And if the leash pressures off, that is a consequence. So here's an example. Let's say that I want a dog to sit and I have a leash on it. I could pick straight up very gently with a leash. And then when the dog sits, which is a behavior, then I would slack the leash, which is a consequence. So pressure on, the dog sits, pressure off. And then the dog is going to have an understanding like, oh, when I feel this, I sit, and then the leash turns off. And if you couple that event together to giving the dog some petting, some praise, some food, a little bit of play, then you're going to see your dog is going to get better and better at sitting when you use the antecedent of the leash pressure. Okay. The other tool that we use is a clicker. Now, the clicker is not an antecedent, a behavior, or a consequence. What the clicker actually does is it bridges, well, it is a bridge, and it connects the behavior to the consequence. Now, the way that the clicker actually gets this value is through classical conditioning. I won't go over that too much. However, just understand that whenever your dog hears the sound of the clicker, it actually believes that the enjoyable things of eating food, getting to play, petting, and praise are actually happening at that very moment. So if we ask your dog to sit, and when your dog sits, the clicker goes off, your dog makes an association that, hey, sitting is really good because the click is directly related to the act of consuming food, petting the dog, praising the dog, playing with your dog. So there's our methodology, okay? We have antecedents, behaviors, and consequences. We use the tool of the leash to teach the dog some of these basic behaviors, okay, through the principle of pressure on, pressure off. And then when your dog actually does something right, we use the tool of the clicker to connect the behavior, the act of sitting, the act of looking at me, to the consequence of receiving interactive play, consuming food, petting, or praise. Now, that's all I have for now, but if you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment. And if you haven't subscribed, somewhere down here, it should say subscribe. Please click that button, and as we produce more videos, you'll get a quick little email reminding you that we've come out with something new. Well, thanks again for watching, and this is Al with Longoria House Dog Training.